Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is Henry, producer Henry, called this splashes, superlatives. I'm all for it. I love the idea. So I am combining all three of my weekly recaps: quarterback power rankings, team of the week, team power rankings, all in one, and maybe a little bit of a Thursday night preview later tonight. So before we hop in, make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want, send us a super chat. Henry will pop it up, and I'll get back to questions when I finish each section. Now we're going to move into the power rankings. Let me just see if there's any comments I want to touch on. Bears offensive line couldn't stop anything. Agree. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. Jalen Hurts more like Jalen Ouch. I'm the funny one here, Henry. Frankie comes out of nowhere to debate. It happens. Frankie with the scoop. Yes, for sure. Chris Manhert's going to score the first touchdown. I don't know what the odds are on that one. I don't know. Maybe 4,500. That Mike Williams touchdown throw at the end wasn't a big time throw. If I recall correctly, I believe Williams was 1, open, 2, it wasn't like a super deep throw, and 3, I don't think he was under pressure. So good throw, but it's the difference between big time throw is like extraordinary, down the field, tight window, making something extra. I think most NFL quarterbacks can make that throw to Mike Williams. That's the thing. I guess most NFL quarterbacks can make most throws, but that's not a particularly like insanely difficult throw, if that makes sense. Also, I do want to point out that with the big time throws, it's not that throwing into tight windows is better than not throwing into tight windows, because I've been on this argument of, if your quarterback can throw a 15-yard pass that's very safe as opposed to a 30-yard pass that's not so safe, then take the 15 yards. Yes, but throwing that 30-yard pass overshadows your deficiencies with the receiver. So the receiver, in theory, should get open. But if he doesn't get open and you still complete the pass, good for the quarterback, right? You are overcoming a deficiency somewhere else on your team. So big props. Herbert was great. I have nothing to complain about. I wouldn't call it a big-time throw, but I wouldn't complain about the throw in any means. So with that said, let's jump into the final part of the show. We have some power rankings. And we have everyone's favorite team coming very, very soon. I wish this sun wasn't right in my eye, but that's okay. Number 32, the New York Jets. What was that, man? You've scored 20 points in 3 weeks. It's one of the worst offensive starts in the season ever. There is very little that has gone right for this team. Like, the defense has been okay. It's been passable. The offense has been a train wreck. And now I don't know. I don't really know what to say about this team. They suck in all regards. So do the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's really hard to find a positive. Actually, I screwed this up. I should have put the kick returner. Not Andre Roberts, Jamal Agnew. I should have put Jamal Agnew on here. That's the only positive, and that's the only reason why Jags 31, Jets 32. I promise you, these teams both suck. They might both be 0-14 when they play in week 16. So they both are trash. The Urban Meyer, it looks like one of the worst hires I've seen in a long time. Saleh, I don't know what's going on there. We've established these two teams are bad. The New York Giants, this is a tad unlucky. This is kind of an artifact of, I don't really want to, Atlanta's 29, by the way. I don't really want to put the Falcons over the Giants, but the Falcons did win and they held the Giants down. So yes, but if the Giants beat New Orleans and the Falcons lose to Washington, which both of those things could happen, I guess, the Giants are going to go skyrocketing up. This is, I don't know, man. I do feel bad for Daniel Jones. He's been playing well, but the team around him hasn't been playing well. They've lost back-to-back games by one possession, like last-second field goals. That sucks. They really could be 2-1, but they're 0-3. So 29 Atlanta. This is a disgusting mess of it. This is a terrible team. Like I talked about how the Jags and the Jets suck. Okay, at least they have a reason for sucking. There is talent on this Atlanta team, but they have been so bad in all aspects. They beat the Giants, but the offense was a train wreck. Arthur Smith, I don't know what you're doing. Get the ball to Kyle Pitts, get the ball to Calvin Ridley, get the ball to, they're actually being creative with Cordero Patterson. So shout out to that. But Matt Ryan has been awful. The defense held New York to 14, but they got there was, I believe, a couple turnovers. It's like, whatever. An ugly team all around. Number 28. Listen, I know they are 1-2, and I know they have a good defense, but the offensive performance that Matt Nagy, Justin Fields, and the offensive line put out there, look, if they beat Detroit, they're going to be right back up. But it was so bad. They gained one net passing yard. You know how many plays there were this week that involved gaining more than 1 yard? Probably hundreds of plays. I could look it up, but I don't want to distract. But what are you doing? This offense is so bad. There's no reason for a team with Allen Robinson and David Montgomery and competent Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. There is no reason for this team to be as bad as it is. And defensively, they're not awful. I don't think they're very good. They're good defensively. I just don't think they're elite. This is a mess. This is a hot mess. 27. And Jalen Hurts, what are you doing? I loved it. The offensive line is good. The defensive line is good, but they're starting to miss so many pieces. Jordan Mailata has played 1 out of 3 games. Samalo, who was on my team of the week last week, he got injured at the end of this game. Brandon Brooks is out. Brandon Graham is out on the defensive line. Like, come on now. Fletcher Cox is still good, but Javon Hargrave has been interior defensive lineman 3. Don't let me miss that. I should have put him in my pros, but this is, I don't know. They got whacked by Dallas. I'm not sure how good Dallas is, but ugly loss. The Philadelphia Eagles. 26 Houston. It's just because they give me a fight. I like what their defensive line is doing. I like that what Brandon Cooks is doing. There are things like, I don't like Davis Mills, but there are good things about this organization that David Culley is doing good things besides that 3rd and 15 that he declines the penalty, then punts. And I don't know what the heck he was thinking there, but yeah, they're going to get pummeled by Buffalo, but this isn't a catastrophe. Now they could be. This is a bad roster still, but they are at least functional. The teams below them are dysfunctional. Besides the Giants have just kind of been unlucky, but oh well. 25 Detroit. The Detroit Lions. Before you say, well, they probably should have beaten Baltimore. I don't care about the final score. They played well enough that I think they justify moving up a bit, and I think Baltimore did what Baltimore wanted to do. Detroit did what Detroit wanted to do. The final score was not indicative of that in the slightest because Marquise Brown had a couple drops and Justin Tucker missed an earlier field goal. And Detroit did a lot of good things in this game. They didn't win, and I didn't think they deserved to win. So I think the result is fair. The score is not fair. But Detroit fights, and there's some value in fighting. It's the same thing with Houston, that there is some value in this team is going to smack you in the mouth, and this team is going to have good offensive line play. Now, Houston doesn't have good offensive line play, but they have good defensive line play. Detroit has had good play in the trenches, and they've had Goff hasn't been terrible. DeAndre Swift has been fun. So there's some positives to build on, and this is a Detroit team that I think in a couple of years might be good. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be with Dan Campbell, but this team is moving in the right direction. I know they're 0-3. I know they're last place in the NFC North. I know they're on pace to get a top 5 pick, but they are moving in the right direction, and that's one thing that I value. 24, Washington is in a slide right now. The pass rush, you've had one guy get 10 pressures the last 2 weeks, Jonathan Allen week 2, Teron Payne week 3. Chase Young hasn't been Chase Young. The linebackers are whatever. The secondary is whatever. They got obliterated, lit on fire by Josh Allen. And that game really should have been a 29-point game, not a 22-point game, because Dustin Hopkins, I don't know how he kicked it up so far in the air that it, like, the wind brought it back, and then he recovered his own kickoff. This is like 1916 Georgia Tech stuff. How do you catch your own kickoff? Well, he didn't technically catch it, but you get what I'm saying. Just, man, what are you, Washington? If the highlight of your game is Dustin Hopkins recovering his own kickoff, we have an issue. Oh man, it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch this team offensively. Heineke was a mess. Antonio Gibson, yeah, he had that one big play, but you can tell he's a college wide receiver, learning running back. So look, you have Atlanta, you can beat Atlanta, you'll be 2-2. Dallas plays Carolina. So there's a chance you'll be tied for the top of the NFC East. So congratulations. 23, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cameron Hayward has been awesome this year. The Big Ben has been a train wreck. Okay, let me put it into perspective. This is a team known for its pass rush. They totaled 0 sacks for the first time in almost 5 years against the Bengals. The Bengals. Remember the Bengals with one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL? Yeah, the Steelers couldn't get anything going against Cincinnati. So almost every other team in the NFL has a better line than Cincinnati does. So that's scary. Yes, I know Watt was out. That's why they're 23. If Watt was here and maybe they got 1 or 2 sacks, even if they lose, they're probably not falling to 23 because losses happen, and I'm fine with that. But Watt's injured. Deontay Johnson is injured. Devin Bush has been in and out. Ben Roethlisberger has been awful. Minkah Fitzpatrick hasn't played very well. So a lot of the things that Pittsburgh usually has going for it, it's not working. Now, next week, they could beat Green Bay. I would be surprised, but if they beat Green Bay, then, they'll move right back up. So it happens. Miami at 22. Yeah, this is a Jacoby Brissett Tua thing. If you run the same darn freaking offense with Tua, I think you're very successful because he's a better I think he's a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett is. Shout out to Landon Roberts. Shout out to Xavier Howard. He's awesome. This offensive line is awful per usual. They lost in overtime to Vegas. I think that's more of a Vegas might not be as good as people think they are, even though they are moving up in my rankings. But Miami does have one of the easiest remaining schedules. I think they can beat Indianapolis, and then you'll be 2-2, and you'll be right in the thick of the playoff race. And that's a win over an AFC team. They beat New England early in the season, so you're moving in the right direction. But I don't know how good this team really can be. 21, Indianapolis, the Clots. Like I said with Carson Wentz in my quarterback power rankings, what are you doing? Just what are you doing? Why are you starting Wentz when he's not 100% healthy? You are just giving the Eagles a free draft pick. Well, you're giving them their second round anyways, but you are giving them, better return on investment because you are an inept organization. You made a bad business decision. Yeah, is Wentz better than Eason? Yes. Is Wentz better than Hundley? Yes. But is injured Wentz really worth starting over them? No. You could have run the exact same game plan. They get the exact same results. If you replace all of Carson Wentz's throws with Eason or Hundley, I think you get the same result. So I think that's a bad business move. The Colts might lose their first round pick because they wanted to play Carson Wentz in a meaningless Week 3 game. I know it's against Tennessee. I know he technically gives you the best chance to win, but injured Carson Wentz doesn't. Healthy Wentz, yeah, for sure. But I just didn't see it because the value that Wentz brings is totally nullified when you play him in a situation like this because he moves around, he extends the play, he finds things downfield, he converts on third downs. He did none of that. There was nothing special from Wentz. Eason could have done that. Hundley could have done that. Just all around, just bad for the Colts. I know they're moving up too, but this is more of a Pittsburgh falling, Washington falling, and Miami staying the same. Then the Colts are good. So the Colts are 0-3 for a reason. New England, got to throw the L in there. This is just a bad offense. Jonnu Smith didn't play well. Mac Jones was okay. The defense is fine. There was a pick 6 in there, so 28 points is really unfair. 3 picks for Mac. So it's goofy. It's goofy. I know they're minus 10. I had them a little high. I will be totally honest. I had them a little too high. Gilmore's coming back in a couple weeks. I don't hate the defense, but they might get curb stomped by Tampa. Number 19, +6, the Bengals. They looked good against Pittsburgh. Joe Burrow was awesome. The pass catchers were great. And this is the thing. When you have a good quarterback that processes well and you put weapons around him and enough of an offensive line that he's not under siege every single snap, good Bengals offense. And this has been a good Bengals defense too. I know it's Pittsburgh, but 10 points is 10 points. So Trey Hendrickson has been really nice. Jesse Bates and Von Bell would both make my second team All-Pro. They haven't made a team of the week yet, but hey, I only get to choose 2 safeties for that. Bates has been good. Bell has been good. Logan Wilson's has 3 picks. There's a lot going right for the Bengals, and they are tied for first in the AFC North. And if I'd made this 3 hours from now, they would be first. So congratulations. The Bengals are doing something right. The Seattle Seahawks come in at 18. I think this is where my cutoff is. I think there are 18 teams I could see make the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised. Cincinnati and New England can jump into that realm. Pittsburgh and Washington, same sort of thing. If they get better offensive play and their defense comes alive. The teams below Seattle, they need something else to click. Or Cincinnati just needs to prove that they're not the Bengals anymore. The top 18, I think any of these teams can make the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised. If Seattle goes in and beats San Francisco, I'm not surprised at all. Russell Wilson's great. Lockett and DK. DK got going against Minnesota finally, but this defense, the last 6 quarters has been awful. Just Derrick Henry ran all over you, then Alexander Madison ran all over you, then Justin Jefferson ran all over you, and Kirk Cousins balled out, and Tannehill was unbelievable. Figure it out, Seattle. Figure it out. You're higher than Pittsburgh and Washington because I know your offense is going to be good. The other 2 teams, they're so bad offensively, and then the defense gets tired out by that. At least with Seattle, I know the offense is going to ball out. 17, Dallas. I got some pushback on this on Instagram. One of my Jeremy, my coworker at Primetime Sports Talk, he posted a graphic for this. Why is Dallas at 17? They beat the Chargers, and the Chargers are six spots higher, spoiler alert, and they barely lost to the Bucs. Okay, if they barely lose to the Bucs, then why didn't they barely beat the Chargers, huh? I don't know why you're going to pick and choose like that, but Dak is good. The offense is good. Offensive line's been great. Tyron Smith was awesome. Zach Martin was awesome week 2. Nothing to complain about on offense. I don't love Zeke, but as I recycle my joke with Tony Pollard, defensively, they're coming around. But here's my thing with Dallas. They have matched my expectations to a T. I had them beating Tampa. They didn't, but that was a Brady thing more than a Cowboys thing. Then I said, don't bet on Dallas Chargers or Cowboys Chargers. Don't bet on it. It's going to be a 3-point game either way. I don't know which way it's going to go. They won by 3. Congratulations. If Justin Herbert doesn't throw a stupid interception, they probably lose. And then they smack the Eagles. Okay, the Eagles are a bottom 5 team. What do you want me to do? So they've fit everything to a T, but I think Carolina beats them this week. If they win, cool. They'll be moving up, and we won't have this conversation again. But I need to see it one more week for Dallas. They've played exactly to my expectation. My expectation this week is Carolina beats them by a field goal. So ball is in your court, Dallas. Minnesota back to 16. They were unfortunate to start 0-2. They are now 1-2 with a big win over Seattle. Kirk Cousins has been playing really well. Justin Jefferson got back to his form. Alexander Madison looked pretty solid. Dalvin Cook was out. He's still in the pros because he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. They have Cleveland this week, so you might be an unlucky 1-3, but a couple of those games you're playing just top 10 teams. So how do you judge? So I have them moving up. Good defensive performance against Seattle, and great. They've been awesome offensively. Carolina, they are number 1 in points allowed per game. They are number 1 in rush yards allowed per game. They are number 1 in pass yards allowed per game, and that means they're number 1 in total defense. Sam Darnold's been playing well, too. So there's some reasons I have them at 15 because they started so low, and priors matter somewhat to me, right? It's week 3. If it was week 10, it doesn't matter what I thought of Carolina coming into the season. I'm going to judge them on the 10 games they've played, the 9 games they've played. But I didn't think they were good coming into the season. They looked good week 1. They looked good week 2. They looked good week 3. Okay, they were up 12 spots. They're one of the biggest moving teams in the entire list. Shaq Thompson has been unreal. They are without McCaffrey. They will be without J.C. Horn. They did add C.J. Henderson. So you bring something in. So they've answered everything you can throw at them for 3 weeks. They have a big test against Dallas coming up. Denver, same boat as Carolina. Awesome defense. Offense has been moving a lot better than I thought it would. Teddy Bridgewater's doing things. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams have been weird, but that's fine. Cortland Sutton is Cortland Sutton. Tim Patrick has been really good. And Denver is taking care of business. They played teams 32, 31, and 30. They've beaten those teams soundly. There has not been a moment in the 12 quarters they've played that Denver looks like they're going to lose. Nope. They controlled the game against the Giants. They controlled the Jags. They controlled the Jets. Nothing more I can really ask for there. They play Baltimore this week at Mile High. Denver is favored. This is where the season begins for Denver. Are you a serious contender in the AFC? You go out, beat Baltimore, you go out and play well defensively, you move the ball on offense. You can beat Baltimore. Baltimore is not invincible by any means. Go out and beat Baltimore now. And you'll be probably top 10 team, top 8 team. Who knows? The New Orleans Saints. Defensive, this is awesome. Like, I was correct. I was bang on correct with how good this defense was. I thought this is a loaded defense. Just look at the talent. Look at Demario Davis. He's been awesome. Cameron Jordan's been awesome. They did lose Hendrickson, but who cares? And the secondary has been spectacular. This is one that I think people just didn't realize how good. They didn't account for how many good players the Saints have. Gardner Johnson, good player. Marshawn Lattimore he's been cornerback 1 this year. Who would have thought that? Maybe someone that had him in his top 100. I'm going to take a victory lap here. Yeah, I dropped him to 17 after they lost like 10 coaches to Carolina. But look, this defense is legit, man. They are awesome. The secondary is great. Linebacking core is great. And then the front has been getting good, solid pass rush. Cameron Jordan had like 9 pressures. Offense, they're a mess. It's Jameis. It's the Jameis experience all over again. Kamara is good. They're without Thomas. The offense is going to be hit or miss. The defense is really good, man. This defense is awesome. Malcolm Jenkins back there as well. Number 12, San Francisco. I got a lot of flack for putting them at 12 after a 2-0 start. Well, we're 2-0. How are we below the Seahawks? They're 1-1. Okay, you're not going to complain about the Seahawks anymore, but you lost to Green Bay, right? In theory, right? If you lose, you should drop. Nope. You have I don't want to say a fluky loss, but a team has to lose or tie. A team has to have a negative result, right? San Francisco happened to have a negative result. It came against the 3rd best team in the NFL. Okay, cool. Defensively, been kind of hit with injuries. Josh Norman was really good and they got injured. Offensively, they've been healthy outside of the running back room. Jimmy Garoppolo has been whatever. George Kittle's been good. Offensive line's been great. Trent Williams, shout out to Trent Williams. And Tomlinson's been productive. This is just like a good team. I don't think they have Super Bowl upside right now because Garoppolo, but this is just a good team. And that's the thing. Like I said with Seattle, that there's 18 teams that could make the playoffs. If San Francisco goes 11-6 and makes the playoffs, I'm not surprised. Number 11, the Los Angeles Chargers played really well against Kansas City. Yes, they had some fluky turnover luck. I get it. But Justin Herbert balled out. Mike Williams balled out. Joey Bosa balled out. 3 of your most important positions balled out. Rashawn Slater looks like he belongs in the NFL. This is a good Chargers team. This is a good again, like I said with San Francisco, there's a lot of good teams. So 11 doesn't necessarily reflect, oh, this is a top tier team. This is a good Chargers team. They are well-rounded. Offensively, they can move the ball. Defensively, they can stop you. They can force turnovers. Asante Samuel, 2 picks already. Nothing to complain about for the Chargers. Number 10, Vegas. Now, note, Chargers, Raiders. Chargers, Raiders. They play this week, Monday Night Football. Raiders at Chargers. Winner is going to be a top 10 team. Loser may or may not be, depending on who else loses. The Raiders, to me, I don't want to act like I was right on the Raiders because I wasn't. I think they are the team that's moved up the most. Because I had them right where I think I had them where Carolina was, but they've moved up like 17 spots. So I was wrong. But if you're as good as 10, I think you should have beaten Miami. You shouldn't have let Miami stick around. They were down 14-0 to start with, which isn't entirely their fault, but Miami could have won the game in overtime. They were like, I don't know. This is a weird team that is very close to being 1-2. They're 3-0, and you're going to say, well, you have to give them credit. They're 3-0. Carlson made a 55-yard field goal. Otherwise, they lose to Baltimore. And then you're not having any issues with Baltimore. And in this game, Jonathan Abram nearly got torched right at the very end on a deep ball that you could have lost this game to Miami. And it's a shaky 3-0. It is a shaky 3-0. They're 3-0. Congratulations, but it's a shaky 3-0. Tennessee at 9. I do have them dropping a spot because Arizona looked Arizona's the next team. Arizona looked great. Took care of business. Simple as that. They didn't have Julio. They didn't have AJ Brown. Didn't matter. Arizona's at 8. Kyler's been Kyler. He's playing well. He's been a top 10 quarterback this year. And yeah, they have a tough matchup against the Rams, but this is a kind of thing that I don't expect them to beat the Rams. So if they lose, let's say, I don't know, the Rams win by 10. Okay, the Cardinals are going to be like 9 next week. So congratulations. The Cardinals have established themselves as a good football team. Baltimore at 7. Yes, I know they only beat Detroit by 2, but as I touched on with, I guess I touched on it with Lamar. So again, Lamar Jackson. This Baltimore, if they had like a checkbox, they had like a checklist of goals they had against Detroit. They checked off everything. I know they almost lost, and if Justin Tucker doesn't make a 66-yard field goal, they lose. I understand that, but don't think of it as they barely beat Detroit. Think of it as they did everything they wanted to do against Detroit because we know they can run the football. We know they are unstoppable on the ground. Even when they lose, they are unstoppable on the ground. No team in the last 3 years has really figured out how to stop Baltimore's rushing attack. It's outscore them early and force Lamar to throw, and then you sometimes beat them. They came back, 10-point comeback against Tennessee in the playoffs, 10-point comeback against Kansas City last week. Who knows? Lamar led another game-winning drive. I hate game-winning drives as a stat. I've been through that on a variety of platforms, but if you do like game-winning drives, Lamar has 2, probably should have had 3. Sorry. Lamar was spectacular. This is a game that if Lamar plays like this every week, I know it was against a bad Detroit defense, but if he plays like this every week, he's a lot higher than 6 in my quarterback rankings. So he was awesome. Andrews was great. Powers was great. Bozeman was great. Clark was great. Villanueva was terrible. Queen was terrible. The linebackers are a mess. Like LJ Fort is one of the biggest missing spot pieces in the NFL, and he plays linebacker. Who would have thought? Big game against Denver coming up. So in theory, you can beat Denver. Denver's been good this season, so who knows? Number 6, the Cleveland Browns. They are down a spot, but this is one of the weirdest teams in the NFL because I don't see the weakness. Like, they have a good quarterback, they have good running backs, they have good receivers when healthy, good tight ends, the best offensive line in the NFL, good defensive line play. The linebacker, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I think was the highest graded defensive player this week. Linebacker play is improving, and the talent in the defensive back room is off the charts. Troy Hill, John Johnson, Greedy Williams, Denzel Ward. I know not all of them are playing at that level, but the talent is there, and this is a New Orleans thing that I'm going to bet on the talent every day of the week. Even a Green Bay thing. I'll get to Green Bay in a minute, but man, this is a fun team to watch. I know 26-6 wasn't necessarily the most indicative of that because Chicago couldn't move the football, but hey, Cleveland's the reason why they couldn't move the football. Big time game from Garrett, big time game from Conklin. Kareem Hunt was awesome too. So I can't think of a con with this team for what that's worth. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills are back, ladies and gentlemen. They're back in the top 5. Josh Allen was unreal against Washington, and they're favored by 16.5. This is a Week 4 game. They are favored by 16.5 over Houston. You can't even throw it in your parlays because you're like losing money on it. So Buffalo looked great against Washington. And not a whole lot more to say. This is where I had the Bills to start, either 4 or 5, but point taken. Kansas City. Here's my defense for why they're number 4. It's not a talent thing. Even defensively, I have con defense. Yes, it's a Spagnuolo thing. Talent-wise, defensive, they're still a solid defense. They're good enough to be number 4 because they're awesome offensively. Yes, they're 1-2. Yes, they're 4th in the AFC West. Yes, I understand all of those things. But if Odafe Owe doesn't make the play of the week against Baltimore, Butker makes the field goal and they win. If Kansas City doesn't get unlucky on 4 different drives, they beat the Chargers. They probably beat the Chargers. So they have been historically unlucky on 5 turnover drives in 3 quarters, and they've lost 2 games. Okay, cool. You know how many times they've gotten lucky on those drives and they just don't happen? Like AJ Terrell drops an interception in the end zone. That's the one I always go to. Yeah, it's happened a bazillion times. So the Chiefs finally have that like luck backtrack against them and swing the other direction. This is a good Chiefs team. They might finish 15-2. Like, I have no worries about the Chiefs. Yes, they're down to 4, but that's an NFC thing, not a Chiefs thing. So I get it, but this Spagnuolo defense, it's going to work in November. It's going to work in December, and I still think the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl. 3, Green Bay. They took care of business against San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers when he mattered. Kevin King didn't play, which is probably the best thing to happen. I have no ill will to say of Kevin King as a person. I'm sure he's great. I'm sure he shakes hands well, but he can't play cornerback in the NFL, man. Eric Stokes looked good against San Francisco. I hope King is healthy, but I need him to be a healthy scratch moving forward because he is a train wreck of a offensive or train wreck of a corner. And he just gets picked on by any competent quarterback like Aaron Rodgers would. Imagine if Aaron Rodgers played Kevin King. He would have like 50 touchdowns in 5 minutes. So you have Pittsburgh, tough defense, but I think Green Bay can handle it. Number 2, Tampa is off of its top pedestal spot. You can guess who number 1 is. Defensive injuries. It's been Sean Murphy-Bunting is out. Richard Sherman is in town now. I don't know how much he has left in the tank. Jamel Dean left week 3 with an injury. Carlton Davis got burned on a touchdown. And then the offense has been fine. They only scored 24 points against the Rams, but weird scoring game, missed a field goal, stuff like that. Brady had the weird strip sack that if that was any other time than a minute to go in the second quarter, that's a big play for Fournette, either Fournette or Bernard, because I don't know what happened to Ronald Jones. He's just been awful this year. This front 7 is not as good as it was last year. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Vea is back, and you think, okay, it should be better, but it just hasn't been the same. Offensively, they're good. Offensively, they are as good as it gets. They're Chiefs, Packers tier of offense. But defensively, they've just been a step slow. They've been I don't know what's wrong with it, but the front 7 hasn't been quite as good as it needs to be for what that's worth. So they have a tough trip to Foxborough, Sunday Night Football. That should be very fun. Brady's going to break the passing yards record, but I don't know. And at number 1, we have the Los Angeles Rams. I remember in the offseason, I got hate. Why are you putting them at 3? They haven't proven anything. Stafford can't win big games. Okay. This is not a lie. This was the biggest game. This was the biggest home game of Matt Stafford's career. Matt Stafford's been in the NFL since 2009. This is the game against Tampa was the biggest home game of his entire career. There's not been a game with more stakes than this one that he's played at home. Yeah, he's played in some playoff games. All those have been on the road. Yeah, he's played in some like NFC North games. The Lions were never serious division contenders. Like, this is a huge win. And he was great. Austin Corbett was great. Aaron Donald, I could have put an infinite line of Aaron Donalds, and it wouldn't be enough credit to give to Donald because he is a massive difference maker. Jalen Ramsey is still Jalen Ramsey. So, yeah, there we have it. That is my week 3 power rankings. With that said, guys, make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel, smash that notification bell, ring-a-ding-ding, that Le'Veon bell. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and make sure you check out the dope merch. There's a Zach Wilson shirt. This is a Lamar Jackson flip touchdown. So yeah, with that said,